Good afternoon, everybody. It is 12:30 on Monday afternoon, and we were in session today. We have just taken a break while we wait for more work to come over from the Senate, and I thought I'd take a quick minute to do a live. I'm going to talk about the millionaire's tax that is pending. It has not come before the full legislature yet, but it is going to be. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, last week the Appropriations Committee passed in the middle of the night, it was party lines, a piece of the budget to include a 2% surcharge being another word for tax. And this would be on individuals who are making $1 million or more, or filing together that make $1.5 million. And comment away. I would love to know your thoughts. Do you support this so-called millionaire's tax? I want to know. It is going to be coming to the House and then the Senate for a vote as part of the budget. But today I want to talk about how this millionaire's tax is going to affect you, whether you are a millionaire or not in our state. So we're going to break it down and talk about some of the numbers. Please say hi in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from on this Monday afternoon or later, as perhaps some of you are watching it after the fact. But I have to go back in time a little bit and talk about the budget. And so let me just give you guys a reminder. In 2018, the budget was $7 billion. In 2026, the budget is cresting $12 billion. That is a 65% increase over a very short time span. If you consider that in the entire history of Maine as a state, we had not gone above that $7 billion prior to 2018, and now we are at $12 billion just a very short time later. So that's a huge increase, right? That's spending. That's the money that taxpayers in Maine pay, whether that is through personal income tax or all the other avenues that you are paying taxes in Maine. And so as we talk about the millionaire tax moving forward, bear in mind that we have seen insane growth of that budget, 65% increase to the Maine state budget, spending on the part of government over just a very short time frame. With that as the backdrop, I want to remind you guys, back in 2024, we had a millionaire's tax, something similar, come before the legislature. It did pass the House and the Senate, and then it went to the governor's desk for signature, and it got vetoed. So 2 years ago, Governor Mills vetoed an income tax hike, and I'm going to read part of the veto letter. This was just 2 years ago. Governor Mills wrote, Maine's highest income tax rate of 7.15%, which it currently is the 10th highest state income tax rate in the country. 10th highest at 7.15%. And there are concerns that increasing that top rate even further would create challenges for state budgeting, because it would increase the state's reliance on a small number of taxpayers, less than 1%, whose income is disproportionately composed of highly volatile sources such as capital gains and business income. Income tax revenue would become more volatile and likely closely tied to economic conditions, increasing the challenge of managing the state's fiscal position and the size of a revenue shortfall. Long and short, that if we rely on these volatile sources of income from individuals who might fluctuate, then the state could be out money at the end of the day. Okay, so she vetoed this bill that would increase the income tax. Hang on just a second. We have a crew visiting. I'm going to pop in my earbuds to make sure you guys can hear. All right. Actually, sorry guys, technical difficulties. I'm not sure those are working. All right. Does Maine have? I'll pause for that question. Corey, that's a great question. And so we're going to just get into that. So this year, with this millionaire tax, this 2% tax increase would take our top rate from 7.15% to 9.15%. And it does so for a very small group of people. This is 2,600 or so individuals who already pay 18% of our total personal income tax here in Maine. So just 2,600 individuals pay already 18% of the total personal income tax in our state. And this would take that number up to 20%. So they currently pay in 18% of the income tax. This would bring that to 20% of our personal income tax. And these are individuals who, frankly, could leave our state. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But here's the numbers. So 2,600 individuals currently pay in 18%, will be paying in, when this passes, 20% of our income tax. Okay, so then everyone else in Maine makes up the other 80%. Think about this. Okay, if just 10% of those 2,600 individuals leave our state, they're not Maine residents for 6 months and a day, they decide enough is enough, they don't want to pay that extra 2%. 10%, just 10%, leave our state. We're right back where we started, okay? Then they're back to paying 18% of our income tax. Okay, so we're even, right? We're even. The spending doesn't stop. The state is still going to want to spend that extra percent that they were responsible for, that they were supposed to bring in. And so consider if 20% of this high income group leave our state. We've got, doctors and lawyers in this group. We've got physicians who can move next door to New Hampshire and be specialists there and not have to pay 9.15% in income tax. Let's consider 20% of this group leaves our state to avoid paying these higher taxes. That means that drops that pool of people down another hole. So they were paying 20% of our income tax. Now we're talking about they're paying 16% of our income tax. That means there's this gap that is then invented, that becomes obvious, that Maine taxpayers, you and I, are then on the hook to pick up, because the state's not going to suddenly stop spending that money just because it doesn't come in. And so if taxes are increased on this top bracket, that might sound nice to some people. That might sound like it's a positive and benefit. And, I hear folks say all the time, great, we should tax the wealthy more. Okay, but when the wealthy move on and that money is no longer coming in, who do you think is on the hook for that? And it only takes a small percentage of them leaving to stop giving that funding, and then you and I are on the hook. So what is that critical mass? I don't know. Maybe it's 9.15%, maybe it's not. But we're not going to know before this is implemented. And then once it is, we're going to find out pretty quick, I think. It seems like a really huge gamble to me to bring in what is actually in the whole scheme of things, it's not that much money. It's about $75 million per year that this change will bring in, this increase in taxation will bring in. But that's $75 million more that you and I can be on the hook for when these folks decide enough is enough and they leave our state. Is that a gamble that you support? Is that a gamble that you want to see happen in our state, where you could potentially be on the hook for these tax dollars because the state is going to continue to spend it, whether or not these folks, these high-income individuals, are here in our state or not? Consider this also. 10% of these folks leave our state. That means if they are business owners, their businesses go with them. That means the jobs that they've been providing go with them. We don't live in a vacuum. And so if these individuals leave our state, that is money and resources beyond just the tax dollars that they give that we are losing for Maine. And that is a gamble that I am not willing to make. However, here we are. We have Governor Mills running for Senate, and she's running against an absolute extreme individual who is advocating for all kinds of very expensive propositions. And we're not going to see a veto of this millionaire's tax like we did 2 years ago, because she's serving as chief executive while running for office, and it is affecting the decision making that is going on in the governor's office. So unfortunately, even though this veto letter from 2 years ago is absolutely accurate, it says that, and I'll read another piece of it, I believe that this bill arrived through a flawed process and that it may have unintended consequences that could jeopardize the stability of the state budget. That is still true. This could jeopardize the stability of the state budget, and I think likely will jeopardize the stability of the state budget. However, Governor Mills can no longer act as the most moderate Democrat in Augusta, as she has for years. She has to kowtow to the most extreme portions of her party. And so we are likely to see this go through as the Democrats pass the budget. So if you have any questions on that, you guys throw them in the comments. That is one piece of the budget that's coming up, one piece of the proposed 2% tax increase that would put us from 7.15%, one of the 10th highest income tax in the country already. That would bump us up to 9.15% on the personal income tax, the highest rate for folks in our state. It's going to be a huge detriment as folks consider whether they want to come here or not. Do doctors, do professionals, do business owners, do entrepreneurs want to come to Maine if they know that they're going to be taxed at that rate? I think we see more and more people say no and not come to our state, which is going to mean long-term economic effects for all of us, because we are all affected by who is living and working and providing jobs in our state. That's what I have for you guys. I don't think I saw any other questions, not to mention it will not just be for millionaires. Yeah, Deborah, it's going to hit everybody. Good time to be in the moving van business. Yeah, Kevin, or, folks who don't even move here because they see this coming down the pike. They will expand it just like every other tax. Absolutely. There's no way this doesn't hit folks directly and indirectly moving forward. Thanks for tuning in today. Share your thoughts in the comments. There are other ways that this will hit more than just the ones that I've talked about, so feel free to share your thoughts on that in the comments. And I will talk to you guys again very soon. And I'll link that veto letter from 2024 in the comments so you guys can read that as well. It's as true today as it was then, but unfortunately I don't think we'll see the like. Governor Harris has already indicated that she will support this tax increase, unfortunately. Thank you so much for tuning in, and you guys have a great afternoon.